everybody to episode 37 of Tax Sale Titans. I'm Shade Bray, here with Steven Swenson, and we enjoy doing these podcasts. It always gives a chance to cover interesting properties and to cover it in a little bit different fashion than we do some of the other tradings. And so we're looking forward to it. We've got some great stuff to cover tonight.
Yeah. Now, D, are you sharing your screen? For some
Hold on.
reason, I don't
Uh,
see it, but maybe
wait,
I'm.
let me go through and do this again here. Let me just make sure. Now it should work. Hold on. There we go. That's right, because I had to stop the slide sharing for a second so I could fix that. Yes, sorry everybody. Welcome out again here to the Tax Sale Titans podcast. We are going to be talking about a couple of different things here tonight. Um, what we'll be covering here. So for post-sale review, we're going to be looking at some auctions that have happened recently in the state of Florida. We're going to be reviewing a few of those deals that have been occurring, and I think you'll be surprised to see what kinds of opportunities still exist in a market that you would normally think of as pretty competitive, like Florida. Um, Training tip of the day we're going to be talking about mobile homes a little bit and some of the opportunities that exist among mobile homes. Um, in talking about pre-sales, upcoming sales, we're going to look at some New Jersey tax lien auctions that are opened up right now, and some of the dozens more that are opening up in the next couple of weeks. A lot of opportunities in New Jersey in their liens, and we'll wrap up with some Q&A from our members.
Yeah. In fact, we're not quite sure how it worked out, but we're going to be live streaming this today as well. So we want to welcome all of our members and students that are attending, and we also want to welcome anyone that's watching us on YouTube or Facebook. This is a little bit different for us, so we're kind of excited to see how it works. And one thing we want to do is we want to thank anyone that's attending, that's watching this. We appreciate you guys coming to us to learn more about tax sale investing. And so we want to welcome you back for some of our members that have been with us for years and give you guys special thanks for, trusting us to learn more about investing strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to start off here by talking about some recent Florida sales. We like to follow the results of some of these auctions that occur, and we're going to be looking at a couple of Florida counties here today. Now, if we're looking at how Florida works for tax sale purposes here, Florida is classified as both a tax lien state and they're a tax deed state. You know, there are a couple of different states out there like it that actually use both systems, and Florida is one of those that uses both systems. Now, Florida tax liens are offered up once a year, so it's every year in the month of May. Florida counties will begin to offer up their tax liens for sale to investors. These tax liens have a maximum rate of return of 18% annually, and they have a 2-year redemption period. Now, when that 2-year redemption period comes to an end, um, the lien holder has to fill out a tax deed application if it hasn't redeemed it. And what that tax deed application does is it pushes the property into a foreclosure, auction for the tax deed sale. So they schedule a tax deed auction, foreclose on the property, and sell it to the highest bidder at the tax deed sale. So the liens are what lead to tax deed properties being offered. You only have deeds offered on properties that had liens on them that didn't get paid off or redeemed. In that way, Florida is one of the few states that has opportunities in both. They have opportunities for tax liens, during May, and then they have opportunities year round for tax deed auctions.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and as far as the taxing certificates, like Shade mentioned, they have a 2-year redemption period and they start at an 18% interest rate return, and then they bid down the interest rate. So whoever is willing to accept the lowest interest rate will go ahead and win the taxing certificate. They also have what's called a prepayment penalty, and that's something that's kind of unique to Florida, that if somebody redeems early, you're still going to get a percentage of your money back. Now, one thing about Florida is they have been part of the tax sale investing game, I guess you could say, for a long time. In fact, we even have some original taxing certificates from the 1930s from Florida when they were doing their certificate sales way back then. But they have a pretty good system in place, which means they have a lot of records available, easy to find. And one of the other nice things about Florida is most of the counties have moved online. Now, there's still a number of different counties that don't have online auctions, but most of them are online now with both the tax lien auctions and the tax deed auctions.
Yeah, and Florida has always kind of been the leader in the country, I would say, for how they conduct sales and their online auctions and the information they provide. They've always kind of been a leader in that way. So it's a great state to work with. We can always find, like, if we're dealing with properties in Florida, we know we can always find the information we're looking for. That's never really an issue with this, like it could be in other places. So a lot of advantages here in Florida. So let's go online and check out some of these properties here.
So let's go ahead and move that out of the way. And let's look at some Florida tax sale auctions. Now, I kind of went overboard, so we're probably going to go through these pretty quickly, but I think that'll be kind of helpful to see all of the different type of opportunities that are available in Florida. So the first property we're going to look at is this one right here that started at $80,000. It's actually this home right here. And so it didn't start at 80,000. It bid up to 80,000. It started at 10,000. And this just barely sold, a couple of days ago. And it's this house right here. Uh-oh. I froze up. Oh, how obnoxious. Well, well, here's the value of it, 170,000. So they actually paid quite a bit for it. They paid 80,000, valued at 170,000, but we're still looking at a 90,000 profit rate. And the condition of the home was in pretty good shape. And so that's the reason it made sense that they probably paid up for it, but they're still getting it for around 50 cents on the dollar. And this is one of the more expensive ones, but I decided to kind of include it anyway because if we would have got a chance to look at the Google, it was pretty good shape.
Well, and at 80,000, it still works great as an investment, and there's still money if you wanted to fix it up, you could do that and be able to resell it, and maybe even get more for it. There's a yeah, I think that was a pretty good deal at that price, and yeah, then they probably did pay up more than we probably would. We probably wouldn't pay 50% for it.
Yeah. Let me take a quick look and make sure I'm. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's this one that sold for 35 right here. And the value on it is about 112,000. So, kind of within this last sale, they kind of bid between 30%, well, 25% on some a little bit ones that were in worse shape, up to about 35 cents on the dollar was about the average for properties that were selling in this last auction.
Well, and that's about a quarter of value. Essentially what they're paying for the property there. So that's not bad. And 35,000, again, you're just talking about a single family home that you're picking up for a small amount here. Under $50,000 is hard to do just about anywhere, especially for a property in Florida.
Yeah, well, and I mean, the roof looks pretty good. It looks like it was still occupied. This is about a year old, but, it looked like it was still a usable property, a little bit more out in the country, kind of outskirts of town, which, there is a lot of people that are looking for properties like that.
Yeah, the price they paid are very safe with it, and yeah, 25%. That's a percentage that would make sense for lots of investors, if they're just looking to get a good return on their money.
I don't know why I changed all these. I had them set up exactly where they should have been. I'm gonna go through that one pretty quick. Oh, it put me on each one of them. How annoying. Okay. I'm sorry. I had it set up right where to wear it, but they must have changed. Somehow went to one of the wrong pages. Maybe I'll just do it
Yeah,
this way.
just flip to the page.
Yeah, we'll just go this way. This one here sold for 136,000. All of my preparation didn't pay off, but it ended up, being valued about 270,000. So, they paid up for it at 136. It opened up at 106, which probably tells us that this was some type of homestead property.
Oh, it opened up for 108. I mean,
Yeah.
85 it looked like.
Oh yeah, sorry, 85. I was looking at the assessed value.
Oh yeah, so it probably was a homestead property there, or at least probably had a homestead exemption, which is why that opening bid amount was so high. But unfortunately for them, their assessed value was low compared to the estimated value of the property.
Yeah.
So it's still a good deal.
And then we can see that homestead value. So, they're assessing it at 109,000, but it's not really worth 109,000, because they're essentially taking out uh these different 25,000 here, 25,000 here. And that's the reason when we look at the market value on it is 209 just through the county as far as the assessed value. So when you're looking at something and it only says 106,000, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's that's what the actual assessed value is or the market value. In fact, I was looking at one today a lot that had a $300 assessed value, but the market value was like almost 60 grand. It was a piece of land, and it's because it had some kind of major exemption on it that essentially took the assessed value down to a small payment.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because people can do similar things with agricultural land or with timber property, and essentially what they can do is they can change how the property is assessed. So that rather than it being assessed by its market value at the time, they assess it based on its value or ability to produce certain things. Like for timber, it's based on its ability to produce timber, and if it's agriculture, it's based on what it can provide for agriculture. But that dramatically reduces the tax assessed value of the property, so you can reduce how much the taxes are. The flip side of that, though, is that the property has to be actively managed for those things. Like for instance, if it's timber, it's got to be actively managed for timber collection. And same for agriculture as well, but definitely is a big way to reduce that tax burden because if you're just paying full market, if you're paying regular taxes on land and there's no exemptions, land can eat you alive.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Here's one that ended up selling for 49,000 within the Jacksonville area. We can see that it sold a few months ago, valued at about 184,000.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You say that sold for 35,
49,000
49 valued at.
at um I can't remember, 180, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty good. They picked up for less than a third of value.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's back on track now. So this one sold for 153,000. You can see they're assessing it at 261. We could see what the market value is if we were to click there. It's actually a pretty nice home and it kind of makes sense.
Oh,
You
this one
know,
probably had a homestead exemption too, huh?
You know what it probably did? Let's look at it. And so what a homestead exemption means is that, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have a redemption period or anything like that. It just means that the starting bid has to start at 50% of the assessed value. And so, you're looking here at the market value, it's going to be higher at 269, but the assessed value here they only have at, I guess, 261.
Yeah, the opening bid amount though is high enough that on it's probably
Yeah,
half of that estimate.
it's got to have a homestead. But pretty good shape, valued at 314. So them paying 153, they ended up paying about, you know, what, less than 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and it looks like it would be a fairly simple rehab. We can already see they've got some kind of a, I guess it's not a garbage out there in front, but it looks like it's been loved in the past here, at least for general maintenance. I don't know if it's gone through any rehab, but it looks like it's in decent shape in this photo.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was in pretty good shape, and I think that's the reason because I mean they have a ch let's say they put $50,000 into rehabbing it, they can still make 100 grand on it. And so when you're looking at these homes that are valued between two to 300, if you can make, between 70 to 100 grand on them, those are going to be definitely deals that are worth flipping, get them done within 6 months. Now you've got double your money or more to put back into another investment.
Yeah, in fact, it's always interesting when you follow these sales like a month or two after, and you can see investors already getting properties listed. And so in some cases, we can already see offers coming in, or we can see properties that were listed and then have sold. And so we know about how much the investor made on the deal, roughly. It's really interesting following results like this.
Yeah. And now this one's sold for 25,000. We can see it's here in Panama City. And it's actually this piece of land right here that's for sale for 120,000. So, they just picked this up at the first of this month on the 4th, and they've already got it listed for sale for 120,000. In fact, if we go down here and look,
Yeah, it's
you
been
can,
up for like 2 weeks or less than 2 weeks.
yeah, and have got it listed for 120,000. In fact, there's quite a few of these pieces of land. You can kind of see here, here's all the pieces of land that sold around it. Well, I guess they could be more than just land. There could be homes there as well. But some of this land within this area, is pretty interesting, and you can kind of see some of the profit margins that people have been doing on it. So they essentially have listed for $100,000 more than uh than what they purchased it for.
That's as good as you can hope to get anywhere in the country. In terms of paying 25,000 for a property that you can turn around and potentially make $100,000 on. That's yeah, that those are awesome numbers here. And what's
Yeah,
interesting too is that with it being Florida, the market moves fast enough that they could easily have that property sold within a couple weeks.
yeah. In fact, we're going to look at a couple where you can see the pending offers where they've listed them and sold them pretty quickly. I mean, Shade, we're talking about it, figuring that they have to be going through tax title services, because there's just not time to go through and get a warranty deed on it.
But they're definitely selling them with title insurance.
Yeah.
These are not like cash wholesale deals. These are definitely full transactions with title insurance. And
This one here, it ended up selling for 97,000. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, it's quite a bit of money. And it's this lot right here. Now it is pretty close to the ocean. I mean, it's pretty close to the beach there, but they've already got it under offer for 199,000. So they purchased this just a few days ago.
yeah, on the
Y-
11th,
y-
so a week ago.
Yeah, and they've already got an offer contingent for, pretty much 200 grand.
It's only 4,700 square feet. That's only a tenth of an acre
Look when they listed it.
on the 13th. Holy cow! Yeah, so it's been listed for 6 days.
Yeah, and they already have an offer on it. So yeah, they paid up. They paid $97,000 for it, but they're going to make close to $100,000 off of this deal, and they've sold it within 1 week. To me, that's an incredible investment. They put up this ad, it's close to the beach, and they've already got an offer on it within 1 week. So, when we're talking about can you do a tax deed quickly, you can see it's under contract right here. So they don't even have a pending offer. They've got it under contract to sell, and they picked it up and they're going to make $100,000 in 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, and that is a nice investment. I agree with David there. Very nice investment, and very simple investment as well. I mean, this was a piece of land that I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they're local investors, but this is the kind of thing that you could invest in from anywhere. You don't have to have any special knowledge. You wouldn't even have to have anybody there in person necessarily in order to buy it. But 100,000 in profitability in a week, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. This next one, oh, how annoying. It switched all of my things. Is this one here that sold for 37,000, and it's this lot right here, and they've got a pending offer on it.
Oh, for 89.
Yeah. So, I mean, they did pick it up for, what do we say?
37. So you're gonna make 60,000 on it.
Yeah, they're going to make 60,000 on it, and it's kind of this lot right here. And again, when did they buy this on? They bought it on the 11th. So there's two land deals there. One of the investors made 60 grand. The other investor made 100 grand on it within 1 week of buying it from the tax sale.
Yeah. Well, and so granted, this is Florida, and property does move quickly here in Florida, but you can see how quickly it can be. In any of the states that we deal with, like tax deed states, there's nothing holding you back or stopping you from being able to list the property here immediately. So there's no redemption period or anything that's going to stop you. You can list the property as soon as you have ownership rights over it. As soon as you have a deed, you can get the property listed. These guys probably listed the properties before they even had a deed. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, they
But
did because they listed on the 13th. So they purchased it on the 11th. They had it listed by the 13th. And by today or sooner, they already had a pending offer.
and what county is this one? I'm thinking here,
This
Panama
one here
City,
is in Bay County.
Bay County.
We've looked at Duval County. We looked at Bay County. We're going to look at a couple of different counties here. And these were just a few that I went through. In fact, if you were to go through and look, you can see these are all of the properties that I included, and it goes down for another couple of pages. We could be spending all day going through looking at Florida deals that have happened just within the last 30 to 60 days.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, essentially that's all these are. These have all been land purchases there that are they're tax deed purchases from Florida. Um, yeah, that's essentially what these are. Is they're land purchases that were made in Florida, and all of them in like the last week. Is when they're made. Now, any of the counties we're looking at as well, they're going to have future sales. They're going to have continual ongoing sales, and there will be more opportunities there to buy. But yeah, this is a mix of both vacant land and improved properties.
Yeah. Yeah, this one here ended up selling for 40 grand. And it's this house right here that's valued at 206.
Wow. I mean, that's not bad. They bought that for 20%.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty good deal.
Yeah, I mean, 20% is a number I mean, that works great with improved properties here. It leaves a lot of potential room there to fix it up.
Now this one's kind of interesting. It sold for 375,000, so it started about just under 40 grand. Has an assessed value of 532. It's actually a pretty nice house right here. You can see it's got, boat dock and everything. And they've got a contingent offer under, so it's under contract right now for 585. So yeah, they paid a lot for it. They paid 375,
They're gonna make 200,000 on it,
but they're going to make 200,000 on it.
and they probably didn't have to do anything with it.
From what I read in the note, I don't see anything listed in here that says that they did rehab.
Yeah, they probably just buy
I mean,
it.
if you do rehab, you brag about it within your ads. Everyone does. So the fact, I think that they pretty much walked in and this was clean. They may have had it staged, or this could be virtual staging. I'm not quite sure.
How interesting. And this was another very recent sale here that they've already got an offer on it.
Yeah, well, this one was a couple of months ago. So this one's been
Still,
a few months, but still they're making 200 grand on it. Now, yes, it's 375,000, but most investors would hope to be able to pick up this property, do a ton of rehab, and hope to make 60 to 80 grand on it. But with a tax sale, you could walk into this quality of a property. Yes, it's going to cost you more, but you can still make over 200,000 on it.
yeah, and these are probably all using tax title services or some kind of tax certification for
Yeah.
title insurance on all these.
This one here sold for 42 right here. And it's this brick house.
I can't remember the last time there were this many good deals coming through Florida.
Yeah, valued at 137. I mean, there's so, I think I counted almost 30 properties that I found in a couple of hours today.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy just because we don't ever see. I mean, for a long time, Florida was so competitive. I mean, there were still some deals that would come out, but nothing like this.
Yeah, so picking up 40, valued at about 140. Let's say you put even 30,000 into it, you could still make 70,000. And that'd be putting 30,000 into it.
Yeah, they picked it up for like a quarter of value.
Now this one here was picked up for 21 grand. I think this one's actually a nice little deal. You know,
Yeah.
Valued at about 109, but here's still a property that they were able to get in for under 20 grand. Let's say you put another 10 grand, just do a lipstick type rehab on it. You're into it. Let's even say you put 15 grand into it. You're into it 35,000. That's still buying a house for between 30 to 35 cents on the dollar, giving you plenty of equity, but these would be great rentals. In fact, I think some of them probably, the reason we don't see some of these listed on the market is because they're being picked up and used as rentals.
Yeah. Well, and that one, I mean, if you could imagine putting 15,000 into a tiny house like that, it's gonna, it's gonna pop. It's gonna have a lot of nice new stuff with it that would probably increase the value of it, make it easier to sell. Yeah, that's such a great price point here where they're at. That's crazy that that's Florida. It's crazy that that's Florida. You can buy a house in Florida for 20,000. We haven't been able to say that for years.
I can't believe it changed all of these links for me. So this one here that's it. They're in Pensacola, ended up selling for 41,000, valued about 112. So they paid up for this one a little bit, but still you're looking at acquiring a property, and you can see that it looks like the roof's been upgraded, the siding's been upgraded. I mean, you could make the yard look better and everything, but
Well,
as big,
you're paying a third of value for an occupied property, so we know that it's livable, to some degree, and you're picking it up for, very lower pricing. You can pick it up, I think, any other buying method. I don't think there's another way you could get that property for that low of a price point, yeah, unless somehow some highly motivated seller or something needs to get rid of something. You just don't see deals like this.
no. This one here was picked up for 60 grand. And here it just sold for 129,000. And this one's kind of interesting because you can see that they picked it up. It's actually valued at, the county's valued at 191,000, but you can see that they didn't do anything with this. So this is picked up back in April. So it's been a few months since they bought it. And you can see that it is just essentially, as is. They didn't even
Yeah.
really clean it up. Like what we would have done is we would have came in and at least had somebody clean this all up, broom sweep it and take out all of the trash and then list it as is. But they just sold it with the junk and everything in it. The only thing I could see that they did in the notes was they did something with the septic tank.
Yeah, they probably had to do that.
Yeah, the septic
It,
system was recently pumped and certified. So, I mean,
oh,
they
look,
may,
they even say right there the property will need or require a full rehab, including roof replacement, HVAC replacement. Yeah, making excellent opportunity for investors and contractors looking
yeah,
to build equity through improvements.
yeah. I mean, it's sold as is. So they're selling this as is. And they went ahead and got it sold. So within 2 or 3 months of acquiring the property, they had it sold for 129,000. Let's say that they put in 10,000. I don't think they put in that.
Yeah,
I think it was probably a couple of grand to do the septic tank, maybe more. But and we know they didn't go through quiet title. So they sold it for 60, they bought it for 60 grand. They sold it within 60, 90 days for 129,000. What does that make them?
about
Yeah,
70,000.
about 70,000. And
Yeah,
they didn't
minus
have to
whatever
do,
they paid there for septic.
yeah, didn't have to do any rehab, anything like that. So when we talk to you guys about some homes are worth rehabbing, some homes are better just selling as is. Sometimes we don't know for sure until we get into the property and look at it, and that can help us get a better idea of what direction we're going to go on it.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting properties. All of these have been pretty interesting properties, and they've been picked up for a range of prices here from from 10 to 50%.
Yeah.
Now, since they didn't do quiet title, I assume they are looking for a cash buy. No, so actually, they are going through tax title services. They're getting tax certification on it, so they're getting title insurance. So they don't have to sell it to just to a cash buyer. They can sell it with financing in that case. That's kind of what we were thinking on all of these is that there wasn't enough time for any of these to pursue quiet title. So they're probably all being sold here using that tax title services because it will cost them a couple $1,000, but it enables them to put these deals together and get title insurance in about 30 days. And so we're pretty sure that's how they're getting these deals done.
Yeah, I think a number of them were done through tax title services, where they went ahead and were able to get title insurance on it. It was worth doing the deal, and they sold them pretty quickly. Now, here's a lot that was picked up for $4,900. It's actually located right here, kind of next to this building here. It kind of comes back here, and you can kind of see it right here. About 1.56 acres, and Redfin's estimating it at about 71 grand. So
Oh,
here's an example of a lot that was picked up for under 5 grand or 70 grand. This would be a great, as is wholesale type deal.
yeah, that was a hell of a purchase. I mean, they did really well on that. They even if they turn around and if they were to wholesale it, you could turn around and sell it for 25, 50, $30,000 and make good money on it.
Yeah. We'll look at one or two more and then we'll go ahead and pass it back. One sold for 51. So it's this one right here for 51. And it's actually this house right here. They've got one of those things right there that you can't see, but valued at about 140. But kind of looking at the overhead, it looks like they have a new roof on it. Looks like it was occupied at that time. And so, picked it up for 50, valued at about 140. Again, about a $90,000 worth of profit potential. Let's say they put another 20,000 clearing the title or rehabbing it. you're still making 60 to $80,000 on these homes that are worth 100 to 130, 140.
Yeah, it's another solid property picked up at a low price. I mean, it's remarkable to see this many good deals, like this. There's just more profitability in a lot of these deals than you might normally find with Florida. I mean, at least I remember it seemed like for years, when following Florida properties, practically everything would sell for 50% of market value or higher. And that was just the way it was. And after a while, you're looking at less at Florida because you just come to expect that. But this is way below that. These are as good a deals as you can find anywhere in the country at any time I think we've seen.
And this manufactured home, in fact, we're going to be talking about mobile homes here in a little bit. But this mobile home on its own piece of land got picked up for 28,000, valued at 163,000.
Man, what a good buy.
Yeah. And we'll look at a couple of these that sold. This one here sold for 33,000 right here in Pensacola, and it sold for 75,000 with a pending offer. So this one's,
Well,
it got picked up a few months ago, so it's probably been on the market for a couple of months, but still sold it for 75, picked up for 33, making 40 or 50,000 off of it.
yeah, more than doubling their money on it.
Well, and look at it. They haven't done any type of rehab at all. So
Yeah, no, maybe they cleaned it out.
yeah, yeah, they cleaned it out like we would do, make sure the property's secure, and then either clear the title or go through tax title services to go ahead and sell it. So
Yeah,
no,
and some of these that are a few months back, like, they could have pursued quiet title on this one.
yeah, yeah, they very well could have, but they're not going to worry about rehabbing it. They're just clearing up the title, then somebody can come in. They're selling it for a discount, but they're still making 50 grand on it, or I guess 30 grand, 40, 50 grand, something. We'll look at this last one sold for 10,000.
Yeah, we've looked at a lot of counties too. It's interesting. We've looked at several different counties here.
Yeah.
So it's not just one county. It's not just one instance where we see some good deals. This is in several counties across the state. It's getting to be something we're seeing more regularly.
Well, and we could have went through every single one of them. So this was a pretty quick flip as well. They picked it up for 10 and they sold it for 34,000.
In March,
Yeah,
like
so
right after.
they bought this one in February, sold it, really quickly by March for 34,000. So they made 15, 20,000 on it, probably
Yeah, yeah,
an as
yeah,
is
they made
till dipe.
yeah, like 24,000. That's pretty good there, and they did it in a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another good example. Some of these land purchases are pretty good. That one for 5,000 is remarkable. I think somebody's going to do really well on that.
And I'll go ahead and can you see, can you take control now?
Oh yeah, you
We're kind
bet.
of
I
new
can.
on Zoom. We've been using GoToWebinar, but we need to use Zoom to stream. So,
Oh, what was that? No, I don't want to do that. All right, let's do this here. Great. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cover the training tip of the week, and we're going to talk a little bit about renting mobile homes out. There are opportunities within a lot of sales here for mobile homes specifically. In fact, sometimes they have separate sales for mobile homes, and that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit tonight. We're going to talk about how to find and buy mobile homes to earn residual income. And one of the reasons why these opportunities exist is because many states will treat mobile homes separately from the rest of the real property. Sometimes they'll sell the mobile home itself without the land on it. They'll just sell the mobile home at auction. Those mobile homes often sell for very cheap. I mean, they can be purchased online for as little as $500 to $5,000. And these can be great usable mobile homes, newer mobile homes in many cases. And again, the idea with this is that you're not going to move anything. The idea is that you're going to purchase the mobile home and then basically pay the monthly lease amount or rent amount there for the lot that it sits on. But again, uh, minus what you are able to rent it out for.
Yeah, well, and you could, move the mobile home if there was some type of value in that. But really, kind of with this strategy is there's all of these mobile homes that we see come up for tax sale. Now, not every state does this, but there's a number of different states where they essentially tax mobile homes like they would property taxes, and they'll foreclose on it and offer it up at a tax sale just like they would with any other type of property. The difference is these mobile homes are either on lease land or within some type of mobile home park. And so they either need to be worked out something with the landowner, whether that be a mobile home park or somebody who's leasing the land, or either move the property. But there's a great strategy there for investors. In fact, it's something we've been talking with our coaching students about. In fact, when we were on the webinar just barely, Shade kind of reviewed an article with us about how manufactured homes are becoming a new strategy within certain areas to essentially provide more affordable housing. Now, this is a little bit different strategy, but let's say you have limited capital. There is a good strategy within here for you to be able to start building rental properties without needing to buy, without huge investments.
Yeah, well, yeah, very limited amount of in money you have to invest in order to acquire these properties, and from there it's just about signing, a lease or rent agreement here with the property owner and getting somebody in, getting renters in the property there that can start to pay rent on it. Um, but yeah, in fact, some of these mobile homes are in mobile home parks. Um, some of them are. Some of them are not in mobile home parks, are just pieces of land that are owned outright here. But the whole idea here is that the land is separate from the improvement here, it's owned separately, and so we can buy that improvement though for very good prices in many cases. And the rent amount that we're dealing with on these lots is usually fairly low. It's usually a fairly low rent amount that we're dealing with month to month that leaves plenty of room for profitability if we're going to rent it out to somebody that wants to live in the home.
Yeah, well, and some of these, are still in pretty good shape. Now, there's going to be some that are rougher than others, but we've seen mobile homes that, are 5 or 10 years old, nice manufactured homes, double wides, really nice ones within parks and also within leased land. Now, how do you make money from them? Well, essentially, you can do this in a couple of different ways. One way is to just go ahead and sell it to somebody else who's going to buy the mobile home and live within the park. But you can also use them as rental properties where we're essentially paying the lot fee or the land lease fee on the property. We're renting the property out, and then that rent provides us with both income off the property, but also is able to help provide the lot fee or the land lease fee to whoever owns the land that the mobile home is sitting on.
Yeah, so this is kind of an example of how this would work because, like we were saying, the mobile homes sell for very low amounts here. So, if you can imagine a mobile home comes up for sale and you win high bid on it at $3,000, and so you pick up the property for $3,000, and you can rent it out there for $1,000 a month, and the lot fee rent amount is $300 a month. And so essentially that gives you the ability to cash flow about $700 a month, off of that property once the monthly lot rental fee has been paid. So and you could do that again year after year, with this property. There's no reason why you couldn't continue on with it. As long as you have somebody renting that property out, the land rental amount is going to be, an easy amount to accept.
Yeah. Well, and it's a great way to earn residual income. Let's say that you have 10 mobile homes and you were into each of them, $10,000, and they're paying you each $1,000 a month, and you have to put, a third of that or a quarter of that towards the lot fee, those are going to be profitable income properties. And there's plenty of people that are looking for rental properties. That's the reason we see some of these big, these big trust and things buying up all of these single family homes is because they're essentially using them as rentals because there's more people that need to be able to rent. So I kind of mentioned this before. You can go ahead and just sell it outright. So you buy the mobile home for 5 grand, you sell it to the next owner for 25 grand. You keep the $20,000 and then they buy it, they move into it, they live in it. So there is that strategy. You're just going to have to pay that lot fee between when you purchase the property and when you're able to find that buyer. You can also, be able to rent those properties out. But one thing that's very important on any of with this type of strategy is making sure that you contact the mobile home park or you worked out a deal with whoever owns the land so that you've got an agreement in place so that you're just not buying that mobile home and now need to move it within 30 to 60 days or something like that after buying it and need to come up with a strategy that way. So it's important we do our due diligence and work out something before buying it.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is simply that you would want to go into it with some kind of an agreement in place. You wouldn't want to buy it and then try to get an agreement in place just because you can't really go back and do it again. And there could be lots of different things that could come up that could complicate a deal like that. It's easier to avoid complications and make contact with the landowner before you buy, before you bid, so that you can make sure. But yeah, you can find out more about the property or the park, if it's an entire park, and you can figure out what the history of the property has been. But we can get a much better idea here. We can figure out exactly what those properties are worth. It's also not unusual. So we can find there's lots of properties like that. We can always find comps, that are for similar types of properties if we're looking to set the value, on the property we're looking at. But like normal improved properties, the condition is everything in this. So getting on-site images of the property before you bid is crucial, because the amount that you're bidding should be based on the condition of the property and how much work you believe it needs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing that's kind of interesting as well is we've seen a couple where they provided more current photos, but even in those kind of situations, we're still going to get an on-site photo. We're going to check into the market value of just selling, trailers or mobile homes, on the mobile home market there. So what are people buying them for and moving into trailer parks and get an idea of what that value is. Also, what is the rental income potentials within there? Now, the one thing to remember is that we're buying this as personal property. This isn't real property. Now, there's a lot of mobile homes that we'll see come up at tax sale where they are real property because they're included within the assessment. But with these, they're being taxed separately. You're buying essentially the trailer, and that's the reason it's important that we've got a strategy in place with what we're going to do after we purchased it, whether that be renting it out or selling it and understand what those values are. But we have seen these sell between, $1,000 up to some real nice ones, $10,000 to $15,000. And some of these, just the mobile home itself, could be worth $80,000 to $100,000 or even more, even though it's in a mobile home park.
Yeah, there can be some excellent opportunities here in what the properties are selling for, and I think there's less direct competition to buy them. I mean, it's part of the reason why the prices are low to begin with is because you've got less people competing with directly to buy. So you can get these properties for pretty close to opening bid amounts, or not much above opening bid amounts, at least in many of the sales that we've seen.
So jump on and go look at a couple of mobile homes quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do that here.
In fact, I've got in
Oh, I see it.
the tax sale podcast underneath tip of the week. I've got a link there to one of the auctions. It's not necessarily have the best inventory, but it is coming up. And then I also sent you over an Illinois list that has some mobile homes on it.
Oh, let me pull that up here then too. And oh, it's kind of dumb. I have to. No, there we go. I can see it now. Zoom stream is unreliable. That's too bad. We would pay the insurance. Who pays the taxes? So as well, if you're talking about wondering who pays the taxes on the mobile home, um, we would be paying the property taxes on the home to avoid any kind of foreclosure on it. Especially if we're renting it out, the owner is always going to be responsible for the property taxes if we're going to rent the properties out. But even if in this case here, so you would get taxed, I guess depending on the area. If the county's not assessing, the improved, the mobile home, and it's not included with it, then there wouldn't be taxes on it. But if they are including, the improvements there, then we're going to pay taxes.
Yeah, well, in this case, their taxes would be part of the lot fee or the lease fee. So, there's two different types of mobile homes. There's the ones that are on their own piece of land. They're considered real property. If you buy it, the tax sale, the mobile home is included because it's considered real property. In the case that we're looking at tonight, there's a number of different places. South Carolina does it with their liens. We've seen it in um, Washington, we've seen in Illinois, we've seen in a number of different states where they just sell the mobile home. So the mobile home has a property tax to it. And if they don't pay that property taxes, then they essentially lose the title to the trailer and they'll go ahead and sell it at the tax sale.
Yeah. So here are examples here in Grant County, Washington, of mobile homes that are being sold this way. And so we can see well, there's 17 mobile homes here, you say. And we can see
Yeah.
the price points on them vary. I mean, current prices, the highest one is bid up to 4,200, which is this one right here.
And this is a little bit rougher list. We've seen some pretty nice ones, like a bunch like this that have come up for sale. But in this case, you could go ahead and it kind of shows what mobile home park it is. So it's AKA Village Mobile Home Park and make Moses Lake, Washington. So we would go ahead and contact the mobile home park, would tell them that we're interested in purchasing it, would find out what the lien is. Plus, they're probably going to be able to tell us some more information about that trailer, what's kind of gone on with it, especially if and we also need to see will they allow us to rent it. So these are all kind of the questions that you've got to ask and find out from them before you determine how much you're going to bid on it. But you can see the county's assessing this at 100 grand, so it has value to it. Even in just reselling it and having somebody move it, there's probably value to it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they assessed it at 100,000. It's at 4,000 right now, and it may not bid up, too much higher here from where it's at. Um, there's a couple of these. I was wondering why the bidding is up so high on a couple of these. Maybe it's about usability on them, or whether maybe somebody's still using that one. I'm not sure because I mean, some of these, like,
Is that what the is that the bidding or is that the opening bid?
the current price.
Look and see how many bids are on it.
Let's see. No bids on that one. Oh, let's see how many bids are on that one.
Because I don't think this is opened yet.
Oh yeah, no bids. It hasn't opened yet. That's true. That is
So
the opening bid amount.
yeah, so the opening bid amount could be how long they've been delinquent, or we're not quite sure why.
Actual bidding starts on September 1st at 8 a.m. But yeah, several of these properties have the potential to work. Yeah, that one I think has potential. That one's a double wide there. Yeah, that one could as well. Some of these, yeah, I think there's probably several on this list that could potentially work that way.
Looks like we got booted off of our live stream for inappropriate content.
Well, that's weird.
I don't know what that means. Maybe it's personal information. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that seems kind of odd too. So I guess we pulled up a few county records here, but we haven't gone through too much though. Uh, but yeah, that's interesting. All right, let me do this. Okay, good. So let's move on to the next section here, which is going to be a pre-auction tax sale review. And what we're going to be talking about a little bit tonight here are New Jersey tax lien sales here for August and September. It seems like New Jersey always has sales that are going on, but they definitely must have like a season because right now, in the last week or two, they've had some of their auctions opening up. We've got several different sales that are open, but we've got a whole bunch of them that are opening in the next like 2 to 3 weeks. And so there are a lot of opportunities there. New Jersey is classified as a tax lien state. But the one thing that's different about them is rather than just having counties responsible for it, they have 567 different municipalities or local governments, that conduct and hold these sales. So it's a huge number of sales, that are conducted. All the liens are sold with a 2-year redemption period and a maximum rate of return of 18%. So in that way, kind of like Florida, similar numbers there. But redemption penalties are a little bit different. $200 earned, a 2% return upon redemption. If it's $5,000 plus, it's going to receive 4%. And if it's $10,000 plus, it'll get a 6% return on redemption automatically here.
Yeah, and that's going to be a penalty. So what will happen with the redemptions is those will come in if and so as far as the bidding, it's going to start at 18%, and then they can bid down to whatever percentage, and then they can get a penalty on top of it. So that'll be a straight penalty regardless of when it redeems. So it could go between 2 to 6%. But this is also where we've seen before in the past where some people have went ahead and dropped down past or to 0%, hoping to be able to get the penalty. But there is that additional penalty where somebody says, hey, I know I'm going to get at least 6%, plus I'm going to get a chance to own this property. Now, as far as getting that certificate, once you purchase the tax lien in New Jersey, you have 60 days to go ahead and record the certificate with the tax collector within the area. Now, one thing to remember about New Jersey is they don't hold auctions like normal counties do, where the county will hold an auction one time a year. The cities, the towns, the municipalities, these are the people that are collecting taxes within these areas. And so these will be the people that are essentially holding the tax sale, which means that there's over 500 different tax sales that can take place in New Jersey within a given year. Now, I would say maybe about half of them, maybe a little less than half, but a lot of them have now moved over to realauction.com. So you can actually purchase these tax liens, online now, through online auctions.
Yeah, it's made it a lot easier because they're pretty much, at least we have a lot of them that are set up there through real auction, and it's fairly easy to navigate those, that site or any of the websites that are set up there by real auction are going to have that same design and platform. And so let's go check out a few of these. All right, so what we're going to do here. All right, let's do this. In fact, you know what? This actually might be easier if let's do it this way. And we're going to go to real auction here for this, so we can show you all of the different, uh, you know, local governments that are using, real auction here. So when we go to real auction site under the clients, it's under real tax lien. And then before we get down to the bottom of the page, I think New Jersey, no, they actually start on the next page over on page 2, and they start right there. Now, we have all of these different municipalities, cities, townships, villages, things that are listed here. And then when they have one of these that are about to open, if they have a tax lien auction that's coming up, they will list, the date that the site is going to open on. And we currently have, let me click on the first one here and we'll show you what we mean here. So for instance, Chester here, Chester Township, if we're looking at, they have 56 liens that are available, right now. And it opened up on the 6th, so it's been opened up for a couple weeks now, and we still have these are all still active and available. So they've already sold some liens. That number is going down as the liens sell, but we can see what the charge type is for. So O, I think, is for utilities. T is for taxes, and so they basically treat utilities, taxes, sewer fees, all those things get treated like tax liens, or at least all the same. The other benefit that we have is we can get a preview of the property, or we can go into the full record. So if we click on the far left there, it will give us kind of a preview, show us the lien amount. It'll tell us what the full address of the property is right here, if there is an address here on it. We can also see, it will show us where the property's at here by map if we want. So we can see that this one is a single family home, has that full address. On the total charges, we can see that this one, it's for property taxes, which it makes up the majority of this. And there's also the cost of the sale there, which is what the C is on these, but that's only $100 that they're charging for that. Now, if we wanted to see what that property looks like real quick, so pull this one up, because I think this is like a $6,000 lien. So it's a larger lien, at least comparatively. We can see the house, though, is right there. And we can see there is the house as well. And yeah, right there, this is May of 2026. So not even that old of an image, only a couple of months old. And if we wanted to get an idea here of the value, because one of the things we like to know is at least what the lien to value ratio is. That's always kind of interesting to see. And it also tells you how secure the lien is as an investment. And yeah, so this lien, it's crazy. It's only a $6,000 lien. The property is valued at 551. So the lien is like 1% of the property's value, roughly a little bit more than 1% of the property's value, but not much. And that means it's a highly secure lien. You still have the majority. I mean, 99% of the property value is still there securing the lien. So highly secured lien, and would be a good investment at that price point.
Yeah, well, and one thing to remember is when we're doing tax lien certificate investing, we generally don't have to do the same type of due diligence as we would with a tax deed. In fact, we were just talking with our membership earlier on the previous webinar about stage one due diligence and doing an online evaluation. And so for most tax liens, an online evaluation is going to be good enough because we only have a 5% chance of probably even owning the property, where most of us are going to get paid off our investment. And so, we can go through and review these properties a lot quicker and decide which tax liens we'd like to bid on. Another thing that's nice about the real auction system is they'll only let you spend up to your deposit amount. And so you're not going to win more tax liens, which means you could bid on more tax liens trying to win the tax liens at the interest rate that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice. I do think they've got a system that's pretty nice and easy to use here. Let's see what this property looks like. It's a $10,000 lien. We know that already here. And this is in a different county, or different city. This one's in Manalapan, I think, if I'm saying that correctly here. And we can see the house here. It is right there. Another great house. It's going to have a ton of value. You just know it is. Let me. Oh, that's why. It's because I deleted my. No, that's right there. All right, let's take a look at it real quick. So look at that, 1.1. So it's valued at almost 1.2 million. So the $10,000 opening bid amount is actually less than 1% on this property. It's again, it's just hardly anything here. So a very highly secured lien. This thing was built in 96. So it's a relatively new property here, comparatively. Sits on a half acre. It's a highly valued property.
The rent on it's 5,500. Hey, you'd never
Good.
rent out something like that. In fact, it'd probably even rent for more than that.
Yeah, that is insane. Well, and there are all different lien amounts here. So we've got some liens, here that are small. I mean, for let's look at this $900 lien. $900 lien here. This one actually has a full address as well. That's interesting. So it has a
But
full address.
some of the liens that are on sewer or water or something like that could be worth, millions of dollars. They just didn't pay part of or maybe their water bill or their sewer bill, and they placed a lien on it, but it could be against any type of property.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can see this one has, the cost of the sale, which I guess they have a percentage here. Maybe it's only $17 on this one, $800 in taxes. And this one, appears to be some kind of a duplex or something like that, or a townhome, maybe. Let's look real quick. We can't get a street side image because it's probably a gated community in there. Uh, but the value on the property, I'm sure, is going to be fairly good. And this is such a cheap lien that this is crazy that it's nice of a property. $400,000. That's crazy. I mean, so lien amount here, being at $1,000. I mean, this is like a quarter of a percent. So the lien represents a quarter of a percent rather than even 1%. It's just a tiny fraction here. That's a highly secure investment.
Yeah, well, and chances are you're never going to own these, but if you're looking to earn a good interest rate return that's backed by real estate, and if you do end up acquiring the property, you're probably picking it up for under 5 cents on the dollar.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're picking it up for almost nothing. I mean, that's kind of what these properties are that we're looking at here. I mean, these percentages are so low that your money is very secure. You wouldn't have to worry about losing your money for anything. And you could end up getting foreclosure rights, so the opportunity to foreclose on the property here. Wow, that's going to be another highly valuable property there. So this one's the large one. This one's the one for 26,000, 23,000. Is that lien amount. Now, let's see what it's valued at here. See if the numbers vary that much. Because so far we've seen lien amounts that are about 1% or less than 1%. I'm wondering here if we're going to see 1.7 million. So this lien is a little bit more than 1%. It's like 1%, 1.5% maybe of the property's estimated value here at 23,000. A little bit over 1%, but still not that bad. Most of the liens that we're looking at on this list are, 1% or less of value, which is excellent. That's as good as you can hope for anywhere in the country.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
these are.
there's so many different auctions that are taking place within New Jersey, and we've had a lot of students that have invested there in the past, and some auctions have more competition than other auctions. So I was talking to one of our students a while back, and he ended up, bidding at one auction that was real competitive and didn't win anything, but at the next auction ended up winning 10 or 15 liens at the interest rate that he wanted. But they have so many different going on, and you can break down that list pretty quickly on which ones that you're interested in bidding in. So it doesn't, once you registered for real auction, you could register for multiple of these different sales that are taking place and pick up liens at the price and the interest rate that you want.
Yeah. Uh, let's see here. Oh, by the way, let me look a couple of these here. I'll tell you, we'll answer questions here in just a minute because I just realized that we have several questions here that have come in, and we'll answer them here in the Q&A in just a moment. This is Sparta Village Township. What do I see this as here? Township. So this is Sparta Township, and they've got 244 records here in this cell, and this one just opened up let's see here. The Sparta sale opened up on the 10th. So a couple of weeks ago is when it opened up, and we can see we've got some different charges here. So we've got a W, that must be a water bill, I'm guessing here. We can pull one up here and look. It still has it on there. Let's see. Total charges. Yep, it is a water bill, is what the W stands for. And this one again, all many good liens here against these properties, a bunch of commercial properties here. So, for example, $10,000 lien here. We've got the full address on the property. And if we look at it from a map here, you can see this one's a commercial property. Let's pull it up here this way.
And they booted us off of eBay for being bullies. Shouldn't have been a bully.
We got booted from for being bullies.
I think it's because we had addresses or something like that we were probably talking about.
Well, you can't remove them in real
Doxing.
time, or doxing people with their delinquent taxes. Only if the county's doxing them too.
Yeah.
It's that property right here is the commercial one that we're looking at here that has a $10,000 amount here. And this property is probably going to have some substantial value. I would guess that it's valued at over $1 million.
Man, looks pretty clean, nice.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Um, and even the smaller ones, I mean, just regular lots here. Let's see what some of these are. Um, is that just a $900 water bill? That's a $400 water bill, and then there's another $400 in utilities on it. But what's funny about it is that even though this is just a utility bill and a water bill, it's still going to use the whole property as collateral here for it. So it's a lien just like any other,
Well, and if you think
even though
about it,
it's
it's because they're going through the city. The city's doing it. So it's the city water bill, it's the city property taxes, it's the city utilities. And so, they've had it worked in within the city that the city can place liens on it just like the property taxes.
here's an example of a partial lien. You know, that's what we're looking at here because this lien is for $944, and we can see that the amount it doesn't actually even cover the taxes. The taxes must have already been paid. They just didn't pay a utility bill here and a water bill, and that's what is leading to this lien sale here. Um, and that's the property right there. That's the house, which is a nice house there for a small lien. Let's see if we can get a value here on it. This one's going to be like 0.1% probably. 535, on $1,000 lien. Yeah, I mean that's essentially what it is. It's a fifth of a percent. But
Well, if you think about a state like Florida, for example, if there's some type of city utility or city water lien or sewer lien, they're just going to place a lien and issue it with the county. But because the property taxes are going through the cities or the towns, that's where they have the ability to add the water lien or a utility lien to the tax auction because it's the city that's handling it.
yeah. So I mean, check out all of these liens here, that are available now. This has been opened up for a bit, but then look at this. So, we're looking at different counties here or different small governments in New Jersey. And every time you see one of these things right here that's in blue that says like site open, what that means is that you have one of these has an auction, that is going to begin soon. If I can get this thing to move out of there we go. So we've got, you can see opens up on, that one's October 12th, but most of these are in September or late October. So opens up the 15th of September, 15th, the 4th of September, 18th. That's one that we looked at here that just opened. And again, the 8th, the 25th, I mean, I guarantee it's at least 30 to 40, maybe more, that we can see. We've got all of these here. These are all auctions opening up in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, and the auction takes place about 30 days after it opens, give or take a couple of days. So if it's on if it opens up on the 22nd, then probably the auction is going to be around the 22nd of the next month.
Yeah, you can see we still have so many more to go through here. It could be more. It could be more than 40. It could be more like 50 of them. It's a large number here.
Well, and there's a few months that there may not be very many, but they really have these kind of going throughout the year. So when we look at, picking a location or going back to locations, New Jersey is one of those states where they don't just have it on one time a year. For example, they don't just have it like in Florida in May. They're going to have these auctions throughout the year, which, gives us the opportunity to invest in that area.
Yeah, some of them are very small. So some of these little areas have 3 liens available, or they've got 8 liens available. Like in this case, but these are probably still some great liens. In fact, almost all of these are higher dollar liens for this particular county, but we still have full physical addresses here on them as well. And we can still pull them up on maps, so we can see that this one is going to be an improved property, like a single family home. Let's just pull it up here real quick and see what that is.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's a nice house.
I just was noticed we had a comment from Jill that says you need to watch for landlocked property. And that's definitely, and that's kind of one of the first things we talk about when we talk about tax deed land risk is looking for landlocked property and accessibility. In fact, that was something we were looking at a little earlier when we were looking at that. I guess that was actually on the webinar. We were looking at a lot that we were wondering about the accessibility. And so we were talking about how you would need to look into the deed because we could see a dirt road going back there, but to make sure that it has legal access through some type of easement.
And for some reason that looked weird to me there. Um, but those are both good looking properties here, good sales. And you could take your pick from all these sales here. There's going to be limited competition, but so many you could choose from. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of good opportunity here. Well, let's do this. Let's switch back over. And good. Now we can answer other questions here. So let me just get to some of these questions that we've had. Uh, okay. How do you find mobile home lot values? Is it separate from regular lots? So the lot value, generally, when we go to look up the property information, we usually with the tax sale, there's generally going to be some. Hold on, generally, it pulls up the assessment record on the property, and as we do that, we can grab the parcel number here. In fact, usually when we pull up the assessment record here, the land value is about the only thing we can really obtain. But when we pull up the assessment, what we can see is assessed value on the improvements, which is how we know that the improvements were assessed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We can get an idea there of what the land value is versus the improvement value. In fact, that's where sometimes we'll look into a property and we'll see that the home is torn down, but the county still has some type of structure on the property, or vice versa. The county will have it no value on, where there used to be a structure. So it's pretty easy to break down through stage one due diligence and looking at the assessment.
Yeah, and then one of the questions here is for bidding on mobile homes, do we need to arrange for our own transport if we win one and have enough land to move it somewhere else? And I mean, you certainly could if you buy it, it's yours to move if you want, but that's not really what the intention is initially. At least you could move it if you want, but what we're kind of talking about is more keeping it right there where it's at, so you don't have to move it, and then getting it rented out so that you can collect the rent on it, which should more than cover whatever the lot fee is and should put money in your pocket.
Yeah,
It's
but if
kind of
you
the
if you
idea.
wanted to move it, if you had a piece of land or it was a nicer one and you were picking it up for a discount, so say you buy a brand new trailer and it's a brand new mobile home, it's going to cost you 140,000, and you can buy this one for 10,000 and then spend another 5 or 10,000 to have it moved onto your lot and get it hooked up there. That could be a strategy within it itself. So it's picking up a discount, but like Shay talked about, kind of the strategy we were talking about tonight is being able to use them is either rentals or flipping them to somebody who is going to buy it and live within the mobile home park or the leased land.
Yeah, in fact, land that you can put, mobile homes or manufactured homes on is always a good idea to pick up, and it's something we're always looking out for because it's a little bit harder to find, than when we're then I guess an auction like this where we're specifically looking at mobile home properties. But mobile home lots have always been, great because they are zoned specifically for mobile homes or manufactured homes. That's actually the biggest factor in picking up the land is that it's zoned correctly because most areas require you to have a specific type of zoning in order to utilize manufactured home or mobile homes. In fact, for some of them, it's a special classification that properties have to have. So there's not that many properties there that have them. Therefore, the ones that do have that designation are more valuable. um, so finding out that and whether or not that determines that we have to figure out, with the local zoning and whether or not, they have a certain classification for it, or if you have to have, in order to use mobile home, it falls underneath a certain classification. Because in most cases, that's the way it works. They have a different classification from regular single family residences. Although part of the article that I read, there's an article that just came out in the Washington Times today that was about the rise of manufactured housing. And it is a very interesting article that talks about some of the different things that have led to that. That have led, I guess, to the increases in value of manufactured housing, and we're seeing more leniency and I guess government pushing more towards making it something that can be used. In fact, one of the reasons why we never see two-story mobile homes or manufactured housing is because there was a regulation or some kind of a regulation that was created a long time ago that said that anything they built had to be on its own permanent frame so that it could be moved if necessary. And that was kind of what has hampered or controlled much of the industry there and what they can build. They couldn't build two-story structures because it had to be on its own permanent foundation or at least frame so that it could be moved. But it sounds like that has been changed and they're no longer required to build everything on frames like that, which should open up the door for more pre-manufactured housing opportunities and options. So it sounds like there have been a lot of changes here in the last couple of years in terms of government regulations to try to make mobile homes easier to use and easier to plot down in different lots.
Yeah, I can see that Dan had a question about what about junk trailers on good lots? If the land's valuable enough, then it's going to make sense to go ahead and have that mobile home cleared off, taken off to the junk. It could cost anywhere between, we've seen it be a couple of grand up to, even 7 to 10 grand if a ton of work was needed. But usually about 5 or 6 grand or less, you could have it cleared off. And then at that point, if there was a mobile home there, we probably have utilities. We probably have a septic system or something set up, water. So, that could definitely be worth it. Like we wouldn't want to, let's say it was only worth 20 grand, or the lot was only worth 5 or 10 grand, and you spend all that money to move it off, it wouldn't make sense like that. But let's say the lot was worth 60 to 70 grand and you picked it up for 5 grand, you put another 5 grand to go ahead and, have it cleared off. Now you've got a lot that you could go ahead and resell or use or whatever. So if the land has value, then we just take the cost of removing that junk trailer in consideration in what our high bid and our total cost would be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, great questions. Lots of very good questions here. Oh, let me see. There might be a few more. Let me just and see what due diligence do we need to do when buying mobile home at auction. So I think it's going to be the same due diligence in terms of us doing research, figuring out what the property is valued at, having an on-site evaluation so that we can determine the condition. Um, you know, finding things like comps might be a little bit different here when we're dealing with other mobile homes, but certainly we can find mobile homes that are just like ours, it's so that we can set values for. So we might do things a little bit differently, but for the most part, though, um, I don't know that necessarily that due diligence aspect of it would change. I mean, other than just making sure that the county is assessing some value there for it. That
Biggest one would be making sure that you worked out something and have an exit plan and strategy. So if we're looking at a mobile home park, we want to make sure that we've talked to the mobile home park. We find out what the lot fees are. We find out more about the information from the mobile home park. We don't want to suddenly buy it and be in a hostile situation with the mobile home park where they're telling us we need to get it out within 30 days, and now we're stuck with trying to move something and don't have a place. So that would be the biggest thing is make sure the property, if you're just buying it as personal property, like we've talked about in some of these sales, that you've either worked out an agreement with the landholder or you worked out an agreement with the mobile home park so that you've got an exit plan in place unless you plan on taking the mobile home and moving it to a different location.
yeah, yeah, I think those have been some great questions here. Well, I think that's everything we have here. Unless we have any other questions here that come in, we'll keep an eye out. But you guys have been a great group. It's been interesting topics tonight, anyway, and we've looked at some cool sales. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. It's been fun.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you so much. We will see you again here soon next week.
Yep, thanks again.
Yeah, see you guys later.